So we're going to go ahead and get started. I just want to welcome everybody to today's webinar on strengthening the pipeline for university innovations in senior living education. My name is Kiki Bishoner. I'm the director of operations here at the Vision Center. And we're just so glad that everybody could join us today. It's going to be an exciting, engaging webinar. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to our moderator, Dr. Nancy Swanner.
Thank you, Kiki, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. I am Nancy Swanner. I'm the founding director of the Granger Cobb Institute for Senior Living at Washington State University, and I'm honored to first be moderating this panel, but also to serve as a board member for the Vision Center. And we just recently came back from a very productive day-and-a-half retreat with the Vision Center, and it was energizing. And one of the things that we walked away with was kind of this focus around Vision Center 2.0 and our real drive and energy going forward will absolutely be around being connectors. We want to connect. We want to connect providers to universities, particularly in regional areas, but we want to be that sort of that hub that can bring it all together. That's where we see our value and strength is in being connectors. And so some of you will, if you haven't heard from us already, you will probably be hearing from one of us shortly. So to get us going today, I've asked each of the panelists will be giving their own introduction, and I will just be calling on them as I see them on my screen. So Bob, you're up first.
Sure. Well, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at across the country. My name's Bob Thomas, and I'm an assistant professor and the director of the undergraduate healthcare administration program at George Fox University. That's in a lovely town called Newberg, Oregon, about 25 minutes outside of Portland. A little bit, you may not be familiar with George Fox, but we're the largest private university in this state of Oregon. This program that I'm the director of is new. We just launched it at the end of August of this year, and it's housed in our College of Business. Our College of Business offers traditional business degrees like management and marketing and financial planning and finance, et cetera. And then healthcare administration focused on senior living and aging services is a new offering to students this year. I'm new to George Fox, but prior to joining George Fox, I've spent the last 32 years in healthcare, particularly senior living, aging services. I've had the last 25 years wonderful experience at Avamere Health Services, which is a regional provider of care out in the Northwest, and as the head of the rehab division, their home health and hospice company, and then eventually chief operations officer for the company. And this is a new path for me in academia, and I'm just excited to bring my industry experience and my love for teaching and students to the university in this program.
Thanks, Bob. Rajan.
Hey, thanks so much, Nancy, and welcome to everyone. My name is Rajan Moon, and I'm the faculty director for long-term care administration at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. And we're somewhere around the 6th largest public university in the United States. And I hold a dual appointment in the College of Continuing Professional Studies, where our long-term care administration program is located, and the School of Public Health, where I serve as the associate director for policy in our Center for Healthy Aging and Innovation. I serve as the third director for the long-term care administration program that was established in the mid-1960s. We created a formal program in 1972 to really streamline the licensure process for professionals that were currently in the field. As many of you are likely aware, 1972 was the deadline for getting that license to oversee a nursing home. We do continue that professional credentialing program today, but also we've expanded. In 2020, we received NAB accreditation for our Bachelor's of Applied Science in Healthcare Management. And we just had our site visit for reaccreditation last week. And I don't want to jinx anything, but there were no negative findings. So I think we're going to be okay for that. And I'm excited to say that in fall 2026, we are launching an asynchronous online Masters of Professional Studies in Long-Term Care Leadership. And just to give an idea about our program, we have 225 students in our undergraduate healthcare management program. We have an additional 75 professionals in our nursing home administration program. And the state of Minnesota is one state that requires licensure for assisted living directors. And annually, we have around 100 students in our assisted living director program. So happy to be here. And thanks again, Nancy.
Thank you. Melanie. Oh, Melanie, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Hi, everybody. I'm Melanie Eaton, and I'm joining you from Western Kentucky University here in beautiful Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is home of Big Red. And our program, I'm an instructor in the Healthcare Administration program, which is located within the College of Health and Human Services and Department of Public Health. We have both an undergraduate and a graduate program. We offer a Master of Health Administration and a Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Administration. We also have a couple of certificates, a graduate certificate in global health and an undergraduate certificate in long-term care. And in 2014, we did achieve NAB accreditation for our undergraduate program. And we've adjusted over the years as those requirements have changed. And our graduate degree, we are currently exploring opportunities to pursue and achieve both CAMI and NAB accreditation for those programs. So I am also from operation background. I've been here for long enough now that I've learned a lot more about academics, but you know, I'm a licensed long-term care administrator and have operations experience in CCRC, and I do academic accreditation site visits for NAB. So happy to be here today. Glad to join you all.
Thanks, Melanie. And certainly last but not least, Tom. Tom, can you hear me, Tom?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can absolutely.
Okay, great. I'm having some fuzziness on this end, but I'll try. My name is Tom Pavkov. I'm with Northern Illinois University. We're located about 60 miles west, directly west of Chicago, along the I-88 corridor. We have, I'm the chair and the professor in Family and Consumer Sciences, and we have within that school a Human Development and Family Science and Gerontology set of courses and programs. Our programs really we're focusing much more on minors and certificates at this point, both at the graduate and the undergraduate level. We've had some major challenges with populating those programs, and Vision Center is really helping us at this point think through that and try to, you know, stimulate more interest. We're located within a College of Health and Human Sciences. Our student mix here is we have probably a majority of underrepresented populations, a large number of first generation, a large proportion of first generation students. We see that in this particular sector as a real strength, and we're observing significant interest as we talk to students about programming in this area.
Thank you. And I will add, I already introduced myself, but I'll add a couple of comments about our program because I think it helps. Our goal in all of this today was to put together a panel that shows all kinds of ways that you can be doing this type of education on your campus, because no two of these programs look the same in any way. Our program actually launched or officially in January of 20, and you all know what a great time that was to launch anything. But our program is housed in a hospitality school in a college of business. So we look a little bit different, and we have an undergraduate major and minor in aging business management. We also have a non-credit bearing online on-demand professional development certificate program. And so we at this point are not doing anything in the graduate space, although at some point I'd love to have a concentration in our MBA program, but we're not quite there yet. But I say that just to let you know, we are all coming about this differently. And so there's no one single perfect formula for those of you who might be interested in looking to partner and work with a provider or a university in your area. So I will also introduce one other person on here, just to point him out. Kiki, you already met Kiki, who makes the Vision Center move. Now behind and with Kiki, we have Doug Olson, and Kiki tells Doug what to do, but Doug pretends he's in charge, and he's the CEO. And we'll be hearing from Doug actually toward the end of as we wrap this up. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into sort of why we're here together. And Tom, I'm going to start off with you. What we want to talk about is sort of paint the picture, I think, out of the gate of what is the current environment in senior living and aging services, and why do we even need a panel like this? You're muted.
I think across the country, traditional gerontology programs have had challenges in terms of populating their programming, generating interest among students. As I'm approaching this and learning more about it, I think one of the things that we're finding is that students simply don't know what the career opportunities are, and the associated compensation packages, particularly in the area of leadership, as opposed to other positions and roles in aging services and senior living. So in our case, and I don't want to generalize this, but I suspect that other institutions have had similar issues. It's really a struggle to sustain these programs. In our case, we're in a university where we have about a 7-day operating reserve. And so the idea of throwing out low enrolled courses becomes a critical issue. And of course, we need students, we need to meet our minimum requirements for our curriculum. So we've been in a process of paring back some things, doing some curricular efficiency work, all with the goal of strengthening the core of what we feel is missional, as it relates to the need and the needs of the workforce. And so we're taking some time with that. It's not an instant process. We've had gerontology and leadership and aging services around for some time, but it's really revisioning that for us and really trying to think about innovative ways of sparking interest, and we're finding some success in that.
Can you share a couple of those things that have worked? What are you finding that's worked to spark that success?
I think the whole idea of having people from industry come in and talk to your students. I mean, I think that when students make the connection between the academic piece and what the endpoint is, it's pretty interesting to see that thought process. Yesterday, Dr. Olson was in and did a presentation to about 140 of our students. At the end of that, we collected some interest forms from about 50 students who wanted more information. I had a couple of students come up to me and say, well, I never heard about this. I was just walking by in the hall and I heard what they were talking about, and this is really interesting. And so, it's changing that. It's changing the perception of what senior living is about, that it's not all nursing home work as important as that is. So I think it's that. I think it's really internally though connecting as well, because we have to connect with our advising staff. We have to educate them about what these options are, because they're kind of on the front line with students. So in our case, we're really trying to amp up our communication, our marketing internally, so that our students know what those options are in career wise, and how, you know, most of our students want to do something to benefit society. And so trying to capitalize on that energy becomes a focal point for us.
I completely agree. Other panelists, anybody else want to share or add to Tom's perspective on our current environment in this space?
Nancy, this is Rajan. You know, I think this is a really kind of exciting and challenging time for senior living and aging services. You know, I think all of us on this webinar really understand the impact of the demographic shift, that we're all aging. But I do think that the challenge that comes with that is a real significant change in consumer demand and expectations of what senior living means, right? So I think myself, you know, when I retire, and if I ever have the privilege of living in a senior living community, you better have a flat screen hanging on the wall for me. You better have access to 5G internet, because I'm going to be streaming, and I'm going to be online shopping and having my Amazon delivered to my room. And these are consumer demands that I think many of us would expect. But at the same time, many senior living communities are forced into a regulatory framework that can often stifle creativity because of a obsessive focus on regulation, and ensuring kind of that minimum bar. You know, looking at most recently, like many of us are aware of the NASEM report, right? The National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Math, who really did a deep dive into the policies and systems that are impacting senior living today, and looked at everything from consumer demand to the regulatory framework to financing. How do we pay for long-term care? And there is significant misalignment. And so we can definitely look at these as challenges, but we also need for our students to look at them as opportunities. We need creative thinkers. We need innovative students that can look past sort of the Medicaid, Medicare framework for senior living and think outside the box. So that's important for us as educators to be able to tap into that innovation. So I think of this as really exciting and challenging times, and it can seem a bit overwhelming. But I guess that's a bit of job security for those of us in academia. That's what I think as a gerontologist. I'll have a job for the rest of my life. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. And I want a Starbucks and a great happy hour in my building as well, by the way, when we're building, when I'm ready to move in.
Absolutely.
Bob or Melanie, anything to add on this one?
I was just going to add, when you were talking about innovation and what seniors will be expecting in the future, the program I'm in is housed in the College of Business. And so right now, the big discussion in the College of Business is artificial intelligence, and how is that going to affect not only how we educate and the education of our students, but senior living, aging services are very high touch, and always traditionally has been very high touch. Well, all those things that Rajan mentioned, plus AI, is going to impact our society tremendously. That's what the students are thinking about. And how do we how do we try to integrate that into this world of senior living that tends to be shyer of technology and more that kind of high touch focus? That's what I'm curious about, and what I've been trying to work through with some of our students too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would reiterate what they said about, you know, it is a challenging environment. It's highly regulated, yet we're expected to provide personalized care and home-like environment. So we try to communicate to our students, you know, to be creative and resourceful in how they collaborate, which are soft skills, but also something that's important in our programs. And I get excited by the challenge. Some people don't, but I'm like Regine, I just think it's a great opportunity coming up in the field, especially from an academic perspective. So.
Great. Melanie, I'm going to circle right back with you. We need to talk a little bit about there's actually research out there, thank you, Doug Olson, regarding some key factors for success as we're trying to put together the right programs for the right people at the right time and grow and expand those programs. There are absolutely some factors that need to be in place. Melanie, what do you think? What's your perspective on that? What do you think those need to be?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of components to program success, and I want to reiterate what you said earlier. You know, every program has its own strengths and should be unique to those strengths, you know, whether it's how you tap into your advisory committee, your faculty, the history of your program, your local community. Those are all opportunities for you to utilize your resources to have a successful program. There's not a cookie cutter answer to that. You know, before I joined WKU, there was already an initiative to start to grow the long-term care focus of the program. I came from an operations background, but I was surrounded by a very supportive administration and colleagues. One of them's on the call right now, Dr. Gregory Ellis Griffith. And, you know, I think that's one of the key components to being successful is having that success, is to have those supporters and also to have a vision. So from day one, we just really wanted to be student focused. And we have always endeavored to build a community of supporters for our students in our program, but also to break down stereotypes. So we've touched on that a little bit already in our program today, but you know, we have to be honest that there's a label in this field. A lot of our students have been exposed to a doctor's office or an acute care hospital, but very few of them have been to, you know, an inpatient hospice if there's one in your community, and assisted living. A lot of them have been in nursing homes, but you know, some of the things we've done are some of those early integrative learning experiences where we take students into those environments. They meet the leaders, they meet the residents, they get to absorb their surroundings and see what those opportunities are. It's not to convert students into pursuing long-term care, but to at least open their minds and show them what those opportunities are. And we also do a life history project that is a service learning opportunity where students interview somebody one-on-one that either has worked in long-term care or they're a senior or someone that has utilized long-term care services, and they have to tell that individual's life history story through photographs. And it is a very impactful program that helps that student build their network and their connections. And it's also a good experience for the person that they're interviewing. So those are some of the things that we have done that have been successful. I do think that you have to be very intentional about your advisory committee and who you network with. I've seen some universities that have a very large advisory committee, and I've seen some that have, 12 to 15 members, much smaller components. But at our program in particular, our advisory committee, we try to have a variety of backgrounds and fields. Some are physician practice management, some are in acute care, because I do think success in long-term care requires you to be a collaborator and to build relationships and partnerships. So I think you have to be flexible. I think you have to get your students to network and make those connections. And I think that changes from year to year. At least that's been our experience. Some things we've tried have not worked as well as others, but I gave you examples of a couple of things that have been key for us, you know, in addition to having the support of colleagues and administration.
Yeah, that's great. Others want to add to that about factors or things that you've found that have been critical to your success so far? One thing to your point, Melanie, that you made about, not necessarily trying to convert every single person, but trying to create awareness. Jerry Meyer, who was the person who really brought the idea to WSU to even start this program at the time, was the president and COO of Aegis Living. And Jerry, who actually had spent time in the hospitality industry, he was the mastermind behind the great chocolate chip cookies at DoubleTree back in the day. But he said to me, Nancy, I want to talk to your hospitality students, not because I think I'm going to convert them today, But what I am going to do is plant the seed so that when the hospitality industry burns them out, they know they have a place to land where the hours are better, the quality of life is better, and their contribution of their work to the life of a resident is overwhelming. And I've kind of never forgotten that. And Darcy Baggett, my partner in crime, who's also on this call today, or in this webinar today, we talk about that a lot. It's about the exposure. We just want you to think about this as a place where you can take your whatever your degree, major, minor, whatever is, and put it to work in this industry, because this is an industry, if you have the right heart, that takes everyone. And so it is very much about planting that seed of a possible option. Bob, we're going to shift gears a little bit, though, although building a little bit on these factors for success. You have just launched a brand new program, and I was lucky enough to sort of be exposed to a little bit of that as it was happening along the way. And I have to tell you, living in an academic world and knowing how fast you went from discussion to launch blows my mind. Nothing in the academic world works that fast. So I want you to tell us how that happened. What was in place?
Sure.
What happened that your university and your partners provided the support that you needed to make that happen in warp speed time?
Sure, sure. Well, I have the good fortune to have been able to kind of step into a lot of work that had already been done prior to me. And so some of what Melanie said are the things that I would say as a new program, some of the things that have kind of made the launch successful. And first I'd start with what Nancy said. We were fortunate to have industry leaders who got together and said, hey, we need future leaders in senior living and aging services, and we need to partner with other entities out there to make this happen. And so there was discussions and development, and eventually what culminated was a group of about 9 companies, 9 CEOs who got together and said, hey, we want to launch a program with the university so we can build a bench of future leaders. And they're financing the program for the first 4 years, which I know is probably unusual in the academic world, but they're providing their expertise by teaching classes or offering paid internships for students. So they've made these commitments. And I would say that was probably a 2-year process to kind of pull all that together, and then to find somebody to kind of step in and build the curriculum and administer and run the program. So I would just say to Nancy's question, it really just started with the base of industry leaders who said, hey, we want to do something different and we want to do something about this. I'd say the second thing at George Fox is this is housed in the College of Business, which tends to be a kind of an innovative department in the university. And I would say that just having kind of the spirit of innovation, I think the dean of our business college is very innovative, and having that spirit of innovation, willing to take some risks, and really kind of represent that to the university as a whole, really kind of set a framework for launching this program. And then I'd probably say the last thing that's made the launch successful for us thus far is that there was real commitment to exposing this new program throughout the university. So when I got here back in February, it felt like there was already buzz in the university community. People would come up and say, oh, you're the guy who's, you're starting this program. We've heard a lot about it. We're excited for our students, et cetera. And what I'm finding is that kind of buzz throughout the university has really brought a diversity of students into the first couple of classes we launched this fall. And I would say, even though we're housed in the College of Business, probably about 60% of our students in our classes are business students, and the rest are health professions students, kinesiology, nursing, and then we've got a various group of other, I'd say, ancillary majors to the healthcare field, like social work. So it's brought a diversity of students in who all want to know about this thing called healthcare. I think students see this as a stable alternative to a world that AI is changing, particularly in the business community, and they see potentially a stable a stable career opportunity with a lot of potential for, development, professional growth, but also monetary growth.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who've had programs that are up and running for a while, what kind of support has been absolutely key to you still being here today? And maybe that's changed over time. Would love to have your thoughts on that.
Yeah,
Rajan,
Nancy,
Tom.
this is Rajan. So in our 60th year history on campus at the University of Minnesota, we have been in 3 different schools. We've been in our business school, our school of public health, and we're now in our applied and professional studies school. And that move was triggered really from changes externally. Where has sort of administration lived, right? Was it on the more healthcare side? Was it on the more business side? And now again, sort of bridging those in applied and professional studies. When the previous director retired, they called forth a futures task force. And that futures task force included broad stakeholders from the sector, the trade associations, accrediting bodies, consumers, consumer advocates, to sort of take a pulse and say, is this program still needed? Right? Do we still need to offer this program, given that there are programs springing up kind of all over the country? And kudos to Doug's previous research showing that there are lots of programs, but many of them are programs on paper and maybe don't have students even in them, right? And it was a resounding, we need this program. We need to continue. And basically, we really took that to heart, and we continue to engage those stakeholders because it's so important for us to continually to redefine our program and student success based on the feedback and in collaboration with these broad stakeholders. It's changed over time. And it's changed over time for a number of the reasons that we've already touched on, right? The demographic shift. The demographic shift isn't just impacting senior living communities. It's impacting education, right? Many academic institutions are experiencing what's known sort of negatively as the enrollment cliff. That demographic shift is changing the composition of our students from a traditional age 4-year degree seeking student to more of a lifelong learning approach, career transition approach. And that's where we need sort of stakeholder input in helping design our programs. I think all other support also comes from accrediting bodies, both government and professional associations, right? As times change and evolve and our needs change and evolve, they also need to change and evolve with them. And so how we can do that is by inviting them to the table, right? So both of our state licensing boards that we're accredited in are invited to be part of our advisory board to help us inform our work, but also to help us inform their work and to understand how the regulations relating to licensure impact student success. And that is extremely acutely sensitive in our state with the passage of the assisted living director license, which in many ways has been a success and in many ways has been a colossal failure, with student pass rates on licensure exams in the 40%. Rate compared to our nursing home success rate of 98 to 100%. Constantly racing my colleagues over in Eau Claire for our pass rates on that state exam. And so I guess just kind of this evolution is really important. And then support needed externally include some of those basic things like paid internships. 1,000 hours is huge. Asking a student to invest 1,000 hours of work where they're providing professional services, having a paid opportunity for that, even at the minimum a stipend, to actually being a hired professional in an administrator and training program, right? And then while those students are in the facility, inspiring creativity, right? Not just focusing on, we're going to get you through a survey. You're going to get to experience a survey. Yes, we've all got to experience a survey, but we also have to have that creativity and inspiration. So as you can see, I'm a little passionate about how we work with stakeholders and bridge academia and practitioners, because there is so much opportunity as long as we break through some of those challenges and barriers that we put up ourselves around regulations and accreditation, all that kind of stuff. So maybe I'll leave it at that.
I love your energy. One of the other things I was made aware of, which I think is a brilliant idea, when we talk about there had been, when I first started with the Vision Center, when we started, there was a fair amount of pushback from operators regarding that paid experience. How would they absorb that into their operational budgets and a variety of things. And I'm with you, Rajan. It has to be there. It's part of the deal. But compensation comes in many forms, and I've seen some really creative things where providers have hired interns for a summer or a 6-month period where they've had an empty apartment in their building, and so the student was allowed to live there. Well, that if you're trying to relocate someplace to take an internship, that's awesome, and you don't have to pay room and board. That saves you a chunk of change as the student, and gives you this very engaging, immersive type experience being in a community. So I think part of it is, as educators and even as operators, we need to think outside of the box about what does that really mean. It's not necessarily just strictly in some sort of an hourly wage that is an extra burden to your budget, because you don't normally have that person on your staff. So I love your energy around trying to think outside of the box and come up with cool ways to do that. Melanie, what about what support have you found that's been super helpful?
Well, I mean, we've done a little bit of some of that creative thinking to get our students paid that you all just mentioned. But also, one of the things that I think has been important for us is the opportunity to elevate and recognize our programs, whether that is news releases or social media, a way to get the word out about these programs. That is a key component of support that we have tapped into here at WKU, and it really brings awareness to the program. So it's not always a financial support. Sometimes it is just a recognition to highlight positive things about your program. And that brings the students in, which then, creates more opportunities for us. But really, I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I think that the two of them really identified most of what I would have contributed to that question.
Tom, anything different or want to build on anything they've said?
I think one of the things that I'm finding, and I think I'm earlier on the learning curve than some, but is bringing in stakeholders from, at least internally, from different programs to construct a minor, a certificate that's has some appeal to not only an HDFS major, but a psychology major, or a business school major, or a nonprofit major. And so when we meet with advisors, we do that, kind of on an interdisciplinary basis. When we project and go to classrooms and make presentations, we try to capitalize on those things. So at least internally, that's important. And if you can construct your certificate or your minor using courses that are drawn from disparate departments, you can create some curricular efficiencies for students that, if they don't have to take 5 courses, but they can take one that they're already required to take, and it counts towards a certificate, then you created a little bit of an efficiency there. And so I think those are things that we're trying to leverage.
Yeah, and I love that. The one thing I would add to that, in trying to construct minors and especially minors and credit-bearing certificate programs, we need, as academics, we need to get out of our own way and get rid of the mile-long list of prerequisites that we think every person has to be able to take our perfect class that you would be honored to sit in. Sometimes we got to get out of our own way, and we need to remember that. So I'm glad that you brought that up about the certificates and looking at courses from across campus. So Rajan, tell us so we've said all these things. What are some of the emerging perspectives, practices, partnerships? What do we need to be doing as a collective group around this space?
Yeah. So as people probably know, we did a little prep for the webinar. We knew these questions a little bit ahead of time. And when I was kind of thinking through this question, I came up with this huge exhaustive list. And so I tried to just bucket it into just a few. So, and then my fellow panelists can maybe add in. The first one that I really think about is Bob already touched on the use of technology, both in classrooms and long-term care settings. Whether this is virtual reality, which we're currently using for training programs of CNAs, artificial intelligence, which is both the amazing gift and bane of academics everywhere, because you're always asking yourself, did ChatGPT write this, or did Jenny write this? So we've got those challenges, and how do you incorporate that? And then even robotics. So we've got nursing homes all across our state that are using robots, and not just robots to clean floors, but robots for social interaction. The second bucket I would say would be culture change. And we know about culture change in senior living, but we need culture change in academia as well as it relates to long-term care programs. We see a proliferation and a focus on age-friendly frameworks, reframing aging, reframing what it means to be, what long-term care is. We also see increased understanding of resilience and workforce well-being. We need to be educating to resilience and workforce well-being. And then diversity, equity, and inclusion. 70% of our healthcare management undergrad students are students of color. 50% of them are first-generation students. 70% of them are women. We need to be embracing that diversity, equity, inclusion. And then the last one that I think I would bucket is this idea of a cross-continuum education related to the broader long-term services and support network. We can't be siloed as long-term care and residential-based services. And I think that this is appreciated in things like the Health Service Executive License, which includes home and community-based services, though that focus tends to be more on home care and hospice-type settings. In my state in Minnesota 10 years ago, we had nearly 700 nursing homes. We're now down to 325. At the same time, we went from almost 0 assisted living facilities to 2,500 licensed assisted living facilities. And we have a more robust home and community-based network with these emerging housing models like co-housing. Sort of people are using the phrase golden girl model, right? These types of models we need to be educating in our programs, because these are going to be the models that consumers demand in the future. Will there be a need for nursing homes in the future? Likely so. There are conditions, particularly significant cognitive impairment, significant frailty, chronic conditions that require that 24-hour nursing care, but even that model needs to change. And I think basically our education programs really need to strategically align with consumer demand and preferences. Not just senior living communities need to assess their consumer demand and their future strategic portfolios, but we do as educators need to align to that as well, so that our administrators and our leaders, when they graduate and they go out and lead these very complex, dynamic healthcare organizations, they really understand what's going to be coming down in the future. So that's how I think that there could be a complete class and dissertation on emerging perspectives, practices, and partnerships. But those are probably the 3 that I kind of gravitated to most as I was thinking this through.
Love it. Bob, would you like to add anything to that? Where are we headed? What do we need?
Sure. Well, just one thing Rajan said that interested me. I was talking to our students about a study that came out from New York University's School of Business, and they were looking at Gen Z hiring into the world today. And there's a real big values mismatch. I'm sure you guys all know that values mismatch between what we as employers want and what the Gen Z student wants. And something Rajan said about well-being, that's on the top of their value list, and the desire to help others. But it's a mismatch from what employers are looking for, which is somebody who wants achievement and work for work's sake. But what it makes me think about is that senior living is a place about providing care. And if we could just tap in more on that and figure out how to educate to that, while still, looking to be successful and achieve and all of that, I think, at least at the undergraduate level, I think that's going to help me and help us in the education process.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom. Anything to add on
Everything,
that one?
yeah, everything's emerging for me at our phase. We're learning a lot and, but I think that one of the things that impresses me is really learning and knowing your provider network around, for us, it's, we're in Chicago and who are the players in Chicago and getting to know them and trying to align our programs to some degree with what their needs are, letting them know what, so from innovation, this is kind of a new approach we're taking as it relates to our senior living programming, because we need these relationships and our students need these relationships, and we need to be able to broker those relationships effectively. And so I think we're laying the groundwork to do that successfully.
Yeah, that's great. Melanie, I'll let you have the last word on this one.
Okay, great. Well, when I was thinking about emerging trends and things to focus on, there are two things that really stand out to me, and probably because there are things that our program are focused on, and that is having a global perspective and international view, and tapping into those resources and connecting our students and what those opportunities are, and what are other countries doing to identify some of the issues we're having in the United States, and really give our students a global perspective on aging and long-term care, and not just what's happening in the United States. And then the other one is something that has been a passion of mine for years, and that is sustainability and biophilic design. And Keith Knapp was on this call, and 20 years ago, I was trying to talk him into installing a geothermal heating and cooling system in our community, and no one was really doing that then. We were writing grants for tankless hot water heaters, and really trying to be aware of sustainability efforts and bringing nature in. And what I'm excited to see is that is showing up in the language now, in articles. The American Hospital Association, Joint Commission, the International Hospital Federation, to see that there's this move toward an awareness of that is, to me, an emerging trend that we are trying to incorporate into our curriculum. Because, when I asked my 15-year-old son what he would be looking for in a job one day, he didn't really identify anything specific. He just focused more on something that's meaningful and that he feels good about. And so I just want to always keep that at the forefront of where we're going in our program. So those are the things that I thought of, in addition to all the other things that have already been shared.
That's great. According to my time, we have about 11 minutes left, and I want to for sure leave a few minutes at the end for Doug to make some closing remarks, but would love to entertain a question or two or three. Kiki, can you help us with that, please?
Yeah, there was one in the chat and then one that got direct message to me. But the first one was, what percentage of senior living centers provide financial assistance to their employees to go and get a degree or certificate?
Great question. I have no idea. Anybody know that? I would think the successful providers, there's a percentage certainly of the successful providers that are doing some sort of investment in professional development, but I don't know if I don't know what that percentage is. Does anyone?
37%.
Is that real, or did you make that
No,
up?
I'm just kidding. I'm just-
Notice I called you out on it because I knew.
What I
you
would
made it
say
up.
is I think there's an ever increasing number of providers that are doing it.
Yep.
Because they see it as a way to retain employees.
Yeah.
Because the group that's coming out right now, they're the ones that really want some professional development. And I think and not every organization does it, but I'd say my experience in the last year is they're not only looking at university relationships to attract talent, they also want to know how the university can develop their employees. And so that conversation is happening more and more. So if you have a certificate, they would invest in an employee taking it. It's much more common than it was. I mean, I've just noticed a lot more in the last year, but 37% sounded pretty good.
Yeah, it was. It sounded like you knew what you were talking about. I would add to that, and I think one of the things from the university side that we need to be thinking about is the notion of kind of those stackable credentials. Because employers are going to have to start growing their own talent. There just aren't enough people demographically that you have this different external pool of people to draw from. You're going to have to grow your own. And what that means is you're probably going to have to invest in some people who previously you may not have thought about as leadership material, but maybe they are. But I will tell you, some of those the folks in that group may not have ever been in or haven't been in a formal classroom for a very long time, and they're afraid. And so getting them acclimated maybe with some non-credit bearing, courses or whatever it might be to get their confidence up and show them how much they really do know, that then ultimately could lead to this stackable credential towards something that allows them to advance and for their employer to win at the game. So and that's a hard one for universities to think about sometimes, because we've only kind of delivered stuff in one or two formats. So again, we need to get out of our own way on that one. Kiki, you said you had another question that came to you.
Yes. One more question. How can providers and universities partner more effectively to prepare the next generation of leaders?
Who wants to take that one?
Well, I would just say, how could they better partner? I mean, I think just having it kind of come out of industry, I think's a good sign that industry is recognizing that there's a shortage of talent and particularly leaders in senior care and senior living. And so it's the fact, and I don't know if this is happening around the country, but the fact that there's kind of a motivation from the industry to say, we need some help here and we want to partner with the university and really invest in time and energy and money. I think that's a good sign, hopeful sign.
Yeah, for me, I kind of think of that in two ways. One is that most of the leaders in the sector came from us. So they are our alumni, and we should be using strategies to ensure that they continue to be connected and part of our community, whether as guest speakers in our classes, adjunct faculty, serving on advisory boards. And that kind of relates to my second point, is that while a lot of it can sort of be informal relationship building, which is really important, there also should be some organized and structured relationships. So that is, for example, having them serve on advisory boards, serving on their advisory boards. I serve on one of the trade association's foundation boards. Tapping into the trade associations, we have both a Leading Age and an ACA NCAL affiliate in Minnesota. And so we're at both of their conferences, providing sessions, speaking on different topics, but also having a booth to welcome back our alumni and find future alumni. And that turns around to then trade associations provide scholarships, right, back to us. So there also is sort of fiduciary and financial partnerships that are more organized. So I think definitely that relationship building and recognizing that these people that are leading the sector are our family, they're our people. And so how do we continue to engage them over time once they've left being a student and now are an alum?
Critical. Industry involvement, critical. And if I'm looking correctly, I think we met our time quota. And Doug, I'm going to thank you, panelists. I love all that you had to say. And Doug, it's all you, man, for the last 5 minutes in the wrap up.
4 minutes. What I would say is, first of all, I just am thrilled. Bob, I remember walking around George Fox about 3 years ago wondering what the heck we were going to do. Thank God they hired you. It sounds like things are going really well. Regine, congrats informally on your visit last week. Melanie, you've been just a force for so many years in this field. And honestly, I understand some of your ups and downs too. You've gone through some, and you've just weathered that. And Tom, your wife cooks very good Lebanese food. It was a pleasure to be there for the past couple days. What I will tell you is one of the richness of the Vision Center is seeing the different kinds of programs that are out there. And I would bet that every one of these 4 people would be more than happy to have anybody on the call reach out to them with questions. One of the strengths of the Vision Center that we've kind of experienced in the last year is university programs collaborating amongst each other. You know, universities, there's a university in Indiana working with the university in California. I would have never expected, but they kind of connected. They had some common interests, and I think we can all build each other up and make each other stronger. You know, I think most of us are not competing for the same students generally. And we're also don't have a market that's very big anyway. We need to grow this market a bit. That's been our goal with the Vision Center. I think we're making great progress. You know, we went from 5 universities 3 years ago. I say this all the time, to about 50 right now. We don't need 150, but we are going to be moving into a place where we're going to start connecting programs with providers and making sure that there's some clarity and recommending. And, you know, because you can have the greatest program in the world, but if you don't have that field experience at the other end to have someone go in, a paid field experience, by the way, the value proposition for a paid field experience is so clear. You can get good talent for 6 months to a year. They're going to make a difference for your organization. They're going to help your organization have some additional energy. The value proposition is very clear, and we cannot back away from that. It's really important because you can't get someone 22 years old to volunteer for 6 months or a year. It's not happening. Other disciplines are paying for field experiences. We're not competing against just senior living. Anyway, I'm getting on a soapbox, so I'll get off. What I will tell you is, and Kiki wants to make sure I say this, we're going to have the forum dates for the spring out in the next week or so. We have another webinar coming up in about a month, kind of from a provider perspective. We're excited about that. I will tell you that we had a very effective retreat in September. Great board, great advisory council. We are kind of moving down the path that we expected to move, just making sure that that's where we're going and headed that direction. You know, the value proposition is every program has to have between 10 and 20 provider relationships significant. You know, and we got to figure that out so it all works. And many of you have those already. I'm also a couple happy announcements. We got a small grant to do the study of the state of senior living leadership white paper. Excited about that. Navigate. We've got another commitment from someone to help us, I think, to do the digital directory for guest lectures and also help support that, you know, development of adjunct faculty. And then it sounds like, you know, from our perspective, I think we're feeling like the field experience portal we're going to launch, we're submitting that tomorrow, right, Kiki? Tomorrow. So a lot of good things are going on. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you took an hour to spend time with us. Anybody that has questions, we're very transparent. Reach out to Kiki, myself. We'll also make sure everybody on this call is available. If you have additional follow-up questions, I'm sorry we couldn't get to everything, and I hope you have a great rest of the day and enjoy your rest of Wednesday.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you all. You guys all
All
did
right.
dynamite.
Thanks.
I got a page of notes.
I got to jump to a meeting. Thanks, y'all.
Okay. Yep. Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Goodbye.
By the way, Regine, Melanie, you know, you guys, I'm gonna put on a planning committee for the forums, I think. Bob, I'll follow up with you about the mentoring thing.
Great. Thank you.